Welcome into Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. I'm Meghan Payton. Guys, are you upset about the Seahawks' current situation? I totally understand we are upset too, but we are going to continue talking Seahawks for the rest of the season. So you might be giving up on this year, but don't give up on listening and staying informed in Seattle. Subscribe now. I promise we will have the latest on all things Seahawks news, rumors, injuries, and everything else. So obviously not an ideal situation for the Seahawks. We did a recap video on yesterday's game. If you missed it, we'll have it in the description. But unfortunately, that game not only came with a loss, but it also came along with some injuries. And the one that I'm most worried about and kind of just down on is the Trey Brown injury. He's got a knee, specifically a patellar tendon injury that Pete Carroll didn't say how significant it was, but it really sounded like it wasn't going to be just a couple weeks. We'll obviously have more, but he said that it's tough when you have stuff like that happen. So Trey Brown, who's honestly been performing really well, rookie cornerback who we had to wait to see, finally getting in there. Then, of course, he has this injury, which he apparently has dealt with a long-term knee injury since college. If this is what that is, obviously that's not a good thing. So we'll keep you updated on Trey Brown. Rashaad Penny, he left the game with a hamstring injury. Pete Carroll said he was very close to coming back, but they just weren't quite there with him. So that's why we didn't see Penny back in. Jordan Brooks dealing with a hip injury, and Brandon Shell messed up his shoulder during yesterday's game. All things will keep you updated here on Seahawks Today, but I think this is overall just an upsetting kind of place for Seattle to be in. I think 3-7 is very hard to come back from. I'm not saying that there's no chance that Seattle returns, but I'm saying my concern level is heightening. So I will ask you guys, how concerned are we feeling about the Seahawks season? I know we were concerned coming into this week. It's obviously worse now, but we're going to scale this 1 to 10. 10 being the season is over, and 1 being you think that Russ and Pete Carroll can figure it out and they'll make the playoffs. I'm going to give this one an 8 because I like to stay positive, but I also like to stay realistic. 3-7 is very difficult to come back from. And I think the Seahawks players actually know this too. I mean, Tyler Lockett, during his press conference yesterday, said it's now or never. And that really is the case. So the Seahawks, if they want a chance in a very competitive NFC, they essentially are going to need to win out the rest of the season. And even then, it's going to be difficult. 7 losses this early on is hard to come back from. And it sucks because Seattle hasn't been 4 games under 500 since 2011. This team is not used to losing. Pete Carroll's not used to losing. Russell Wilson isn't used to losing. And right now, they're not even in the playoff picture at all. I mean, you look at this, if the playoffs were today, Seattle would be far from it because the Cardinals would be first, Packers 2, Cowboys 3, Bucks 4, Rams 5, 6 would be Vikings, 7 would be Saints. And then you look at the others and Seattle's way down there. They're at 3-7. They're with the Bears in that range. You've got so many other teams in the NFC that are sitting a little bit higher at 5-5, 4-6. So like we said, Seahawks are going to have to really change and have a drastic momentum shift in the season if they want to have a chance at just claiming a wild card spot because division hopes are gone. That's just in reality. So these next 5 games, sure, could Seattle turn it around? I guess they could. Washington, I think that they have a higher chance at winning this game than most. 49ers, that's going to be tough. Division game. 49ers are looking good. The Texans, who have not been looking good, won this past week, so you never know what can happen there. The Rams obviously being top Super Bowl contenders this season. And then the Bears, who share the same record as them, maybe they can come up with a win there. I'm not feeling great, though. As I think about what this Seahawks record will be, I'm not feeling as confident as I was last week. There's just so many problems happening on the offense, on the defense, even special teams for that matter. But we are going to do our Week 11 hey, what's the Seahawks record going to be? So go down to the comments right now. We're going to vent it all out and we're going to predict the Seahawks record. So go there right now. I think that the Seahawks will end up winning a few more games. I think they're going to sit at 10-7. Just kidding. I think that the Seahawks are not going to finish at 10-7. The Seahawks are probably going to lose, I'd say, 4 more games realistically, putting them at 11 losses and so 6 wins with the new added game. But what needs to change for Seattle? Because if we're not talking about this season, we've got to start focusing on what needs to happen for Seattle to rebuild, to become a better team so they're not in this situation next year. I'm going to tell you all about what I think the Seahawks need to do. But first, I want to tell you what you guys need to do right now, which is go to chatsports.com/bet. Bet away your sorrows, guys. It doesn't have to be on the Seahawks, but BetUS is the sports book that we love here. And they've got a great deal right now where if you use promo code Seahawks125, they're going to give you a 125% deposit bonus. That means $100 turns into $225. More money you put up, more you get back. It's that simple. I mean, and hey, maybe you are a diehard Seahawks fan saying, I'm taking Seattle to win this game against the Washington football team. Washington is only favored by 1 in this game so far. Obviously this line could change, but right now the over-under is set at 46.5. But as I said, you do not have to bet on the Seahawks. You can bet on any team. You can bet on any sport for that matter, but make sure you do not miss out on this deal from BetUS. All right, so that's what you guys need to do. Now, what do the Seahawks need to do? Well, a lot more than what you guys have to do. The Seahawks need to fix 3rd and 4th down conversions. It is still a major issue for this team. And I know that that's kind of narrowing in on one topic. Obviously, there's a lot that needs to change. But if you look at the 3rd and 4th down conversions that the Seahawks have had over these past 5 games, it's not good. Right now, Seattle is ranked 30 in the league as far as 3rd down and 4th down conversions. They were 2 for 11 yesterday, 7 for 16 against the Packers. I mean, you can keep reading this, but they're not even at 50%. They're lower. I think their average is actually 36%, I believe. I'll have to fact check that. But the Seahawks have to figure that out because you cannot win games if you are not able to convert on 3rd down or for 4th down for that matter. I do think the Seahawks will figure that out, but that's part of the problem with Shane Waldron. And obviously Russell Wilson had hoped that Russell Wilson had hoped that Pete Carroll had trust in Shane Waldron and that they were going to be able to come together, but it ultimately hasn't been happening. And the whole team's frustrated. Pete Carroll is frustrated, which we never see. But if you missed it, Pete Carroll walked out of his press conference yesterday, which is very unlike him. Pete Carroll is actually known around the league as a guy that works really well with the media. He's answering questions on injuries. He keeps them all up to date. So you could just see the pure frustration and honestly like sadness that he had. And when he was talking to the media, he did return, though. I must say that he did return and he didn't apologize, but you could tell he kind of felt bad about the situation. He said, I'm disappointed. I don't have any new answers for you in similar situation. That's a real challenge for this staff. We have to find our ways to get our guys to execute better so that we're not in the same situation. It's like the same story, and that can drive you a little batty. And I don't blame Pete Carroll. I really don't, because he has been a rock solid coach for this team. And I understand the frustration that you guys might have towards Pete Carroll. I understand even maybe the rumors that are coming up saying, is it time to get rid of Pete Carroll? But we cannot put this on all on him. Obviously, he's going to take some responsibility, but the play calling on offense is what I see as more of a problem. And yes, Pete Carroll hired Shane Waldron, but Shane Waldron needs to step up his offensive play calling, especially on 3rd down. So my opinion is yes, there is play calling issues going on in Seattle, but I'm asking you guys, do you agree with me? Is this a play calling issue for the Seahawks? If you agree, type Y for yes. If not, type N for no. There's clearly a lot of problems going around for the Seahawks, so maybe you think this isn't one of them. But as I was saying, this can't all get put on Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll is a coach that has been such a winning coach. You guys have to remember, and you have to look at other teams around the league. It is very rare that a coach goes this long and has this many winning seasons. So I think Pete Carroll's going to have a real tough look at himself and go, hey, I need to change some of the decisions that I've made. I need to have better protection for Russ. I need to have better coordinators calling this offense. But I do not think the answer is to fire Pete Carroll. Now, Russell Wilson is to blame as well because his stats versus the Cardinals, not great. 14 out of 26, 207 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, and a QBR of 22.4. And Russell Wilson is obviously a dominant quarterback, so this just leads me to believe he is not 100%. He is still not. I understand that he's going in a press conference saying his finger feels fine. Pete Carroll saying his finger feels fine. I don't believe it. I don't buy it. Russell Wilson does not look like Russell Wilson. Apart from a couple throws we saw to Tyler Lockett, it's just not there. Maybe he's rusty. Maybe he still needs to figure out what it's like after missing over a month. But Russell Wilson needs to improve, and he's going to have to take some of that blame on himself. He has never had a losing season, guys. So he might say that this isn't affecting him that much, but Russell Wilson is not used to losing. You have to understand, since he's been here in 2012, when he was drafted, he has not had any season under 500. His worst season since he's been in Seattle was in 2017. They went 9-7. That's when they missed the playoffs. But I mean, look at what they've done in 2020, 2019, 2018, 2016. They always made it to the playoffs besides 2017. So this is new for Russell Wilson. To have lost 7 games by week 11, that is not normal. And he might say this. He says it doesn't impact any of his thoughts at all. Again, I don't know if I believe this. It has to impact your thoughts. He said, all I think about is right now what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. I love this team. I love this organization. I love being here. And so, like I said, I like this challenge. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a great story. Now, if anyone can do it, it is Russell Wilson. I do believe that. And this would be a crazy story for the Seahawks if they were able to turn around this season. I don't know if it's going to happen, but really what I start to think about is the Russell Wilson drama that happened during the offseason last year, him wanting to get traded, reportedly going to a different team, wanting better offensive line protection. Well, that was after a winning season where they made the playoffs. What is Russell Wilson going to do when they don't make the playoffs? Is that going to give him a bigger reason to leave Seattle? Obviously, this is a little bit early speculation, but it is something to think about as Seahawks fans. What do you think is going to happen to Russell Wilson after this 2021 season? Where will Russ land in 2022? This is our last comment for today's video, so make sure you get your votes in. If you think Russell Wilson's staying in Seattle, go to the comments, type S for Seahawks. If you think he's saying goodbye, type O for other.